Welcome, everyone, to our final segment of the Rookie Season in Review podcast series. And this will be focusing on the defense. Our first episode focused on the quarterbacks, our second one on the rest of the offense, and this one is going to be focusing on the defense. So we're just going to start rolling with the Defensive Player of the Year. We already know who it's going to be, Chase Young. Alex, what do you think of Chase Young's dominant rookie season?
I mean, Chase Young's rookie season was just probably one of the best we've seen from a defensive player in a long time. He really it took a few weeks, I think, for him to really get rolling. But then after that, he was amazing. I think he's already cemented himself as one of the best pass rushers in the league. I think there's no doubt that he's going to be a future All-Pro. And he's one of the people that you can say truly has Hall of Fame potential. And I know, we just finished his rookie season, but the things you see from him is he's just dominant. And then the fact that he was named a captain after Dwayne Haskins was released shows you how much those players on the Washington football team really think of him and just how high his character is and his work ethic and just everything about him is exactly what you're looking for in a franchise pass rusher.
I totally agree. I think there's not much to say because he was just that dominant in his rookie season. But I think one thing I would highlight is just how much he improved with every week. He's way more dominant right now than he was at the start of the season, and because that's the important thing to highlight is that coming out, he wasn't a finished product. He relied a lot on his athletic traits, and he could really he could stand to develop his pass rush arsenal and really refine his game. And I think he's still not as refined as he could be in that sense, which is scary because he's such a dominant player with his athletic traits and his strength and his motor because he's just such a high effort player. And I think that he could still completely develop his pass rush arsenal and become an even better player than he is. So I think you're right. It's not crazy to say this early that he could be chasing a gold jacket when it comes to his full career.
Yeah. So with all that said, I mean, we could go on and on about all his skills and all his traits, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows you turn on a Washington football game, you watch one defensive drive, and Chase Young's the best player on the field. All right, now we can move on to the second defensive player drafted in Jeff Okudah. I think he kind of had an up and down rookie season. I feel like it's kind of what I would have expected for a rookie cornerback coming in with, especially this season with really no offseason program. I know sometimes it's hard for defensive players to really transition from the college schemes that they're playing in with the simple college offenses they're playing against into a more complex NFL scheme is playing against much more complicated NFL offenses. So what do you have to say about Okudah's rookie season?
I think it's especially difficult for a cornerback to transition to the NFL because when you're really going up against such elite receivers, it is a much different type of game for you than it was at the college level. And I think that while it might be a difficult transition for everyone, I think it's especially hard at that position when you have to not only do you have to read everything way faster than you do in college, like you have to do at linebacker, at safety, but now you also have such significant talent going up against you one-on-one. And so I think that when you look at Jeff Okudah's game, even though he had some growing pains, he still has all the traits you want out of a cover corner. We saw it in college that he was a real mirror corner, that he could go up against any receiver one-on-one. And I still think he can develop into that in the NFL because he has all the baseline traits, and it's not like he had a disastrous rookie year. I think he showed a lot of promise, and he showed those traits at key times. And you also have to highlight that his defense is not the best. There was really a lot of struggles throughout the unit, and so as they improve, I think that he'll improve too, and he'll become a real asset for them.
Yeah, and like you said, their defense wasn't really that good this year, and especially they don't really have a great pass rush and not really getting pressure on the quarterback. So the quarterbacks they're playing against, he can sit there comfortably without having to rush a throw, and he can just wait for somebody to get open. Because it's extremely hard to cover NFL receivers for 5 seconds, even 4 seconds, and that's really not what you expect from any cornerback, especially like in man coverage. So, like you said, as the defense improves, I expect to see Okudah improve as well.
Yeah, just moving on to the next player that got drafted, and Derek Brown. I think that Derek Brown was somebody that we both appreciated a lot coming out for his ability to stuff the run, because he eats up double teams. He's just a really good run stuffer. But both of us were a little lower on him than consensus because we didn't see much potential in terms of pass rush. And to say that he had a quiet rookie season would be a testament to the fact that he didn't really have much pass rush productivity. And that's kind of what we expected in him. So we didn't give him the top 10 grade that a lot of people in the NFL did, because we thought he was limited in that area, and that ended up being true. And I'm hesitant to believe that he really can improve on it that much, because for me, that on tape, I didn't really see a player with high pass rush potential. I think he'll be an elite run stopper in the NFL, and there's a lot of value in that. And he can push the pocket on passing downs, but I don't know if he can actually get to the quarterback and finish and ever really have a lot of sacks at any point in his career. So I think that expectations should be tempered for him in that department in the future. But he's definitely going to be a very solid player at defensive tackle for years to come.
Well, the one thing I'd like to point out is, like you said, he wasn't a great pass rusher coming out. But I think, stats don't really tell the full story for him. I saw something from Pro Football Focus. I know, we don't think they're the most reliable when it comes to grades and stuff like that. But surprisingly to me, actually, among rookies, he was first in QB pressures with 31, and he was first with tackles for loss the whole season. So although he didn't have the ability to finish those pressures with sacks, he clearly still made an impact in the pass game. So I think, like you said, it was a quiet rookie season, but I think he was probably a little more impactful in the passing game than we would have thought, just because he didn't have those numbers. But like you said, he can drive, he can push the pocket, and that's really where those QB pressures are coming from. So I think, with improvement in other positions in the Panthers defensive line, he can be more of a player that will help their other pass rushers make sacks. So I think,
I totally agree. I think we can move on to the next player, Isaiah Simmons. I think he had a really interesting rookie year, and people expected him to really dominate right from the get-go. And I think that we expected him to have a bigger impact than he did at first. I know that in the first few weeks of the season, he really didn't have much playing time even. And then once he did, it was really up and down. But I think that one thing that we kind of overlooked a little bit was that he wasn't a very instinctive player in college. He has a ridiculous athletic and physical profile at his size, how fast he can run. He offers great sideline to sideline range and closing speed. And what we really liked out of him was that you could put him in a variety of positions and he would excel at them. But in the NFL, he's not going to be changed up in the formation on every single down. So he was going to have to be able to fill in one role at a high level rather than just switching up everywhere along the defense throughout a game. And so I think that definitely made for a really tough transition. Now, I just hope that he can eliminate some of the mental mistakes he was making this season, because in some of the games that I watched, he was just they were rookie mistakes, admittedly. So I just hope that they'll grow out of him. I remember against the Patriots, they lost that game because it was 3rd and 13, and Cam Newton was running out of the pocket, and the Patriots offense all season really struggled to get a lot of yardage, and he got the first down, and needlessly Simmons just gets a late hit on him while he's out of bounds, and that tacks on 15 yards, and Nick Folk hits a 50-yarder to win it. And when you think back on it, that win, and they're in the playoffs. So I think that he's definitely a player that still has all the traits that we saw in him, and I think that he still can be a Pro Bowler in this league. He's going to really need to keep developing in terms of finding a position that he can excel at while still being able to use his versatility and in eliminating the mental mistakes that he showed in his game this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone really fell in love with one, his physical traits, his athletic ability, and two, his ability to play a wide range of positions. But like you said, his mental game isn't where his physical game is at the moment. Like you said, he made a lot of rookie mistakes. But that's expected. They're rookie mistakes for a reason. And we just hope, and I expect him to continue to improve and learn, and be able to read plays faster and improve his instincts. One thing I want to point out is I see I know we're jumping ahead a little bit to the draft, but I see a lot of comparisons for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to him, and I can see the comparison because of their ability to play a whole bunch of positions, but I think that Koromoa might have a stronger impact early just because his instincts are great and his football IQ is really like off the charts. You can see him pick out plays before they're even fully developed. So I know some people are a little worried because Simmons had that slow development, slow impact. He wasn't impactful right away, but I think Koromoa might be able to be more impactful early because of his instincts are better. So I know that's jumping a little ahead. We're talking about 2020 rookies, but that's something I've been reading a little bit, and I just felt the need to point that out.
Yeah, I totally think that there is that comparison that's to be drawn between the two players, and that's some good insight right there. And moving on to the next player that was drafted defensively, CJ Henderson, who went 9th overall to the Jaguars. I think that we saw a lot of the good cover skills that he has coming out. We really thought he was a fluid, quick corner who could really glue to a receiver. But my issue with him was that he wasn't the most physical or aggressive, and I think that that's something that might hold him back the rest of his career. He does have the upside of say a Jair Alexander with a kind of similar cover skills and physical traits, and so I think that his development is going to be really interesting because he could end up being a player of that level, which is an elite player in this league. But at the same time, I'm also afraid that his lack of physicality and aggressiveness could hold him back because some receivers are just going to want it more than him. And also in run support, I don't know if he's where he needs to be because of the lack of those important traits. So what do you think about Henderson's rookie year and how he might project to developing in this league?
Yeah, I agree. I think his rookie season, similar to Okudah, was a little bit up and down. Like we said, the transition from college cornerback to NFL cornerback is a big jump. But like you said, his raw cover skills are really good. But I think his potential, like you said, is probably going to be capped because of his lack of physicality. And I think that's really starting to become more and more important in the NFL, just dealing with the bigger wide receivers now over just the great route runners. Because obviously I think he's going to be able to cover guys that are really good route runners, but guys that are more physical, I'm thinking of a guy like DK Metcalf. He might struggle there a little bit because, DK is going to go up and snag the ball out of the air. And like we saw in college, Henderson's that's not his game. And he also went on injured reserve early in December. It was a groin injury. I don't think it was anything significant, so I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be ready to go week 1 of next year. I expect to see improvement, but I agree, like you said, there's probably a cap there from being, one of the top 2-3 corners in the league just because of his lack of physicality.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And so the next defensive player is Javon Kinlaw, and I think he had a rookie season that really got overlooked a little more than it should have. I think that he was raw coming out, and he had a lot of the physical and athletic traits that you look for a defensive tackle. And I had Derek Brown ahead of him. I know you did. I think I'm pretty sure you did too. That's because Brown was just a more refined prospect and who could already step into the league and be a top level run stuffer. But I always thought that Kinlaw actually had more potential than Brown, because I think while Brown is more of that pocket pusher, and he produces pressures but not sacks, I think that Kinlaw can actually develop as a pass rusher to the point where he can be getting to the quarterback consistently because of just the traits he has, because he has way more quickness and bend than Brown does. And I think that the fact that he had a really promising rookie year despite so many injuries on that defensive line bodes really well for his future projection, because thinking about it, next year when Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas are back, but especially Nick Bosa, that's going to command a lot of attention from opposing offenses in terms of who they choose to double team or put more attention on. And so I think that with more talent coming back healthy on the defensive line next year, he's going to be and a full offseason to develop before then. I think we could see a real breakout year from Javon Kinlaw next year.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, I think, looking at the 2 top defensive tackles, it was definitely between Kinlaw and Brown. Brown was, like you said, more refined, and he was a better run stuffer than Kinlaw. Kinlaw was, more raw coming out, but he clearly was quicker, had more twitch, and just had better potential as a pass rusher. So I think you really could have made the argument that you could have had a higher grade on Kinlaw. I know, like you said, we both had a higher grade on Brown just because of where he was at the time. But you could definitely make the argument that Kinlaw will be the better player long term. It just kind of comes down to what you're looking for in a defensive tackle. I think if you're looking for a true run stuffer that can just simply push the pocket on passing downs, I think that's Brown. And I think if you're looking for a defensive tackle that can, stop the run, but really cause more havoc in the pass game from the interior, that's what you're going to get from Kinlaw. And like you said, with all that talent coming back on the defensive line, Bosa's going to demand a double team pretty much every play. Kinlaw is going to be basically the odd one out of only getting single teamed. It's going to be one-on-one, and I would trust him to win some of those matchups. So I expect to see a big jump from Kinlaw in year 2 between, improving and having a full offseason develop and a lot more talent coming back on that 49ers defensive line.
Yep, and now we're going to move on, and instead of just knocking down the draft order, we're just going to highlight some of the guys who really stood out in their rookie seasons, who were drafted outside of the top 15. And the first one would be Patrick Queen. I think we really saw him burst onto the scene early in the season and show his ability to read and react in the run game and use his speed and athleticism to follow his eyes and get to where he needs to be in terms of making the tackle and making the play. And I think that later on in the season, he kind of got exposed in coverage because I had Patrick Queen over Kenneth Murray, and I maintained that because I thought that Murray was a player who was really more of a college player than an NFL player. He didn't really have the instincts, and he actually had the experience was the issue, and he never really developed them. And I thought that Queen was the better player and the better prospect, but that he would need some development in the league because his coverage is really not where it needs to be yet. And so I really like the rookie season that Queen had because he showed us all the traits that make him such a playmaker at linebacker. And I think he definitely needs to improve on his coverage. But given that he was, I think, a one-year starter at LSU and that he had a shortened offseason, as did all the other rookies, I think that really bodes well for the future for him. And if he manages to improve his coverage, he can really be an impactful 3-down linebacker with Pro Bowl potential.
Yeah, I agree. I was probably wrong. I had Murray slightly ahead of Queen. They were really close for me, and it honestly just came down to, Murray had more experience, which looking back on it I was probably wrong about because he hadn't developed those instincts with all that experience, and he also was better in coverage than Queen. But like you said, Queen was a one-year starter, so he was still raw. I think I overlooked that a little too much. And I thought, well, Murray's a little better in coverage, but Queen, after only having one season as starter, had more potential to develop than Murray did. But like you said, I was impressed by Queen in the beginning of the year. He really popped off the page in the first few weeks of the season. He was just creating turnovers, making a lot of tackles. But like you said, he was exposed later in the year in coverage. I think, as offenses started to get tape of the Ravens defense, they really saw, his cover skills are really lacking. This is where we can expose him. So I think in order for him to I think he has Pro Bowl potential, but in order to reach that, I think he definitely needs to improve his cover skills a lot. And like we say for all these guys, with basically no off season, how much could we really expect for them to develop and refine their skills from the college level to the pro level? So I think, next year with that long off season, I think that he'll be able to improve his cover skills. And I think that'll just come with practice, reps, and just more time. If you think about it, he's only had 2 years as a starter at a high level of competition. So, I expect big things from him next year, assuming he improves his cover skills.
Yeah, I really like how you mentioned that you had Murray above of Queen, but really the reasons why that in hindsight Queen maybe should have been over Murray, and I think that that's a big part of what we do as scouts at Bull Take Scouting is that we look back on past evaluations. And if we're right, that'll reinforce how we look at that position or that type of player. And where we get wrong, we really sort of seek to learn from that and see what is it that we maybe should have prioritized higher or lower. And that's really what leads us to have year to year improvement in terms of scouting the NFL. And so as we get each year of experience, it's really exciting because we have more and more of a sample size of our own scouting that we can look back on and learn from. So that's really something that I wanted to touch on there, seeing you be able to analyze something like that in hindsight and see how you would do that differently. So if you want to move on.
I just want to say one last thing about that. Obviously as a scout, there's nothing wrong with admitting your mistakes. That's only going to make you better.
Yeah.
It's going to show you, where were you wrong? Like I was wrong with prioritizing Murray's cover skills because he had all that experience, and that's probably why Queen's cover skills were worse. And, like you said, it's a place to learn from, and just, talking about it on the podcast, it's going to help inform other people too. So, maybe they don't make that same mistake.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the right way to look at it. And just moving on to our next standout was Jeremy Chinn. Jeremy Chinn really had a fantastic rookie year, and I think I was higher on him than consensus because even though he came from a small school at Southern Illinois, he really had all the traits that you look for. I thought his size and athleticism combination was really impressive, and it was really a matter of if he would be able to adjust to the stiff increase in level of competition that he was going to face in the NFL. And I think it's remarkable how he's been able to do so, going from Southern Illinois to the NFL with a shortened offseason, and the way he's performed. I think he's shown that with those physical and athletic traits, he can really fly all over the field and make plays. And that's what we saw him doing all season. And I think that he might just be scratching the surface because this is not just a rookie performing at this level. This is a second round rookie who was really in the second round because of the incredible physical. He had maybe even top 10 physical and athletic traits. It's just the level of competition and the lack of refinement in his game kept him in the late second round. And so the fact that he's already producing at this level, despite really lacking the experience of several years at playing a high level of competition, really shows that he could even become a perennial pro bowler in this league, in my opinion. I think and he's the new type of linebacker that is not just old fashioned, like stuff the run, big, but more mobile. He's like almost a linebacker hybrid safety that the NFL is really like learning to love, and he can cover the whole field and make plays at any point. And I think that he's really a testament to where the NFL has gone at the linebacker position, and I expect him to have a lot of success in this league because of that.
Yeah, you really touched on most of the things I want to say about Chinn, but I just thought that I could point out that this is the second Panthers rookie that we've been highlighting. And I know Yetur Gross-Matos, we're not really going to talk about him too much, but he still has been above average, is what you would expect from a rookie. So that's three Panthers rookies right there. So I just think that's really impressive. But they were clearly doing something right this offseason with getting rookies ready, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I know they didn't draft an offensive rookie, but to the ability to have three defensive rookies, especially this year with a shortened offseason, perform better than the rookies at their positions. I think that really is a testament to what the Panthers are doing down there in Carolina.
Oh, yeah. I think Matt Rule really has a lot of future in that organization, and what he's building is something that's really interesting to follow. And we'll see how they respond if they lose Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator. But I think that with Matt Rule, it looks like they're in safe hands. And if we want to move on to the next standout, Antoine Winfield, I think he's somebody both of us liked more than consensus. I had a 2.0 on him. I think you had, what do you have on him? It was something like that, right?
2.1.
Yeah, so we really saw him as a fringe first round talent, just right outside the first round, and he went mid first round, and we immediately thought that, especially in the Bucs system, that he was going to be a standout. And he had a good rookie year in which he really made some plays and showed that he's a well-rounded safety that excels in all phases of the game, and that's what's really important. There's such a high correlation in terms of being well-rounded and not really having a big weakness and making a big impact early in a player's career. And that's also something that we've learned over these few years of us scouting, is that being well-rounded is just so important. And I think Antoine Winfield is an example of that. When he didn't really wow me with any specific trait when I was scouting him, but he just did everything like at really well. And I think that's what's really important. And he showed that translates to making an impact right as a rookie.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I loved watching from Antoine Winfield was he would just lay big hits on guys, and that's something that I love to see from a safety, because that shows me, they're not afraid to hit. It shows me the burst they have, just because the ability to create that much power in that short of a space, and just their willingness to hit. If they see an offensive lineman come down to block them, they're not going to care. They're going to take it on. Their willingness to play the run game as well as the pass game. So like you said, I thought he was really well-rounded. We were both higher on him than consensus. And, I think that was definitely a hit for both of us.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I think that a trait that really gets too overlooked, and I really don't understand why, is tackling for a safety, because so often these safeties they'll be one-on-one in the open field with a player, and if you don't make that tackle, then you're costing your team potentially a touchdown or a huge gain. And so I think both of us really prioritize that more than a lot of people do, because you'll see these safeties come out and they'll be playing single high, and they have all the range, all the ball skills, all those really good traits, but if they can't make that tackle, they're going to cost their team a lot. And so, and when we're looking right now at the rookies at the safety position who excelled, like Jeremy Chinn and Antoine Winfield, they're sound tacklers. You don't see them whiffing. And so I think that it's important to mention that tackling is just it's not a plus. It's really a necessity in terms of being a good prospect, and that's something I look for a lot when I'm scouting a lot of defensive backs.
Yeah, the safety is the last line of defense. So, if the offense gets good blocking scheme and they block up all the guys on the defense, the safety's an afterthought. Usually for the offense, blocking wise, they just they usually expect, if we block everybody perfectly, we trust our running back to break a tackle from the safety. So that's why, to me, and I know for you as well, safety tackling ability for safety is so important, just because they might not make 10, 15 tackles a game, but it's those 2 or 3 that they make or miss that could really win or lose a game for their team.
I think that's a perfect way to look at it. And I know that the tackling is definitely something that's really in our minds, and we'll be able to talk about that with this upcoming safety class in the 2021 NFL draft, because I kind of see a wide range of tackling ability, and that's going to influence our rankings and grading of those safeties a lot.
Yeah, totally. I think we can move on to the last few players and onto another safety, Julian Blackmon.
Yeah, I think Blackmon is somebody who really surprised us. I don't think we both had him. I know at a 4th round grade. I think maybe you had a 5th round grade, but at that point we both saw him as D3 prospects, and he clearly proved both of us wrong. He went in the 3rd round, which was kind of surprising to us, but he really showed an ability to get behind the line of scrimmage and make get a key tackle for loss. And we even saw this is just one single play, but we saw him in the I think the first game against the Titans. He had a solo tackle behind the line of scrimmage on Derrick Henry, and that I was watching that. That's what I was like, wow, like that. Not many people can do that. So again, a solid tackler who also has that gap shooting ability and that eye discipline to be able to get in the backfield and blow up a play, and that's really valuable for an NFL team.
Yeah, I know. It's another safety. This is our 3rd safety we talked about. The biggest thing for us is their tackling ability. I think that's really something to look at, because I think, most safeties at the college level, I think they really show solid coverage skills. I think some might be better than others, but I think they all have a good ability in coverage. And,
yeah, I agree.
Watch the whole field and, see where the ball is going and get there. I think there's definitely a much bigger range in tackling ability than there is in coverage ability, and I think that's why we prioritize tackling ability so much in a safety.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that, as you said, this is 3 safeties that we're highlighting. I think this is going to go down as a really good safety class, especially because I know Xavier McKinney was injured for much of his rookie season, and he was my first-ranked safety. I thought that he did everything well. He was a really well-rounded player, and I know he got the game-winning interception against the Cowboys, which if the Eagles didn't have some of the antics that they did, and we're not going to get too much into that, but that potentially could have potentially put the Giants into the playoffs. So I think that there's such a solid group of safeties coming out of this class. And the last player we want to look at is L'Jarius Sneed. I think he was an interesting player coming out. I know I had a 4th round grade on him, and that's where he ended up going. Which was a little higher than projected, but he was thrown into the starting lineup really early at outside corner, and then later switched to the nickel, and he showed that he can hold up a lot against for the Chiefs, and I've been impressed by his rookie season, and he's a big reason on why they are favorites to be able to repeat again in the Super Bowl, because with each defensive piece you need to be able to have solid play, and he's provided that for the Chiefs.
Oh, definitely. I had a similar grade to you, somewhere in the 4th round. And I think, he's outplayed his draft position already. I think he's really solidified that starting role in the nickel. And the nickel is becoming a more and more important part of the defense. Instead of, thinking of the defense only starting with 2 cornerbacks, a lot of defenses have 3 starters at cornerback, 2 outside and a nickel, just because offenses are spreading out more. Most offenses are playing most of their snaps with 3 wide receivers. So that nickel position is becoming more and more important. And I think, looking into the 2021 draft class, I think we're starting to prioritize, the importance of being able to play nickel well. And I think, maybe if some guys struggle as an outside corner, but they really show that they can play nickel corner well, don't think about them as a backup anymore and occasionally come in when you want to put a nickel. Think of them as a starter, one of the 11 guys that will be on the field most of the snaps, because that's how most defenses are running. We're having 2 outside corners and a nickel as a starter. So definitely going to start bumping up grades of players that, they can't play outside corner, but they play inside corner well. And I think, instead of thinking them as an occasionally bring them in, they're going to be thought of as starters now.
I think that's a fantastic point. I know what a player that comes to mind in this 2021 draft class is Asante Samuel. I think that he might not have the size and physicality to survive on the outside, as both of us agree. But when you look at his ability to be a nickel corner, he's a really good cover man. He's got really good cover skills in terms of fluidity, quickness, and he even has really good ball skills. And instead of knocking him maybe a half a round grade or something like we would have in the past, we don't even really knock his grade. It's just he's playing we're just listing him as a different position than he was playing in college. Nickel is no longer something that if you're projecting a player to move to that position, you're like, oh, we got to drop him down the draft board because it's not as valuable. As you said, it's really grown in importance. And do you want to move on now to our last part of this episode, which is the both our Rookie of the Year picks and who we predict to be named Rookie of the Year. So I'll let you kick that off on the offensive side.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say, I know this has been a pretty long episode. We're at the 33-minute mark. So thanks to everyone that's been listening all the way through. And now we'll get to probably one of the most exciting parts of this, podcast series with our Rookie of the Year picks. So I think we'll start off with the most obvious with our defensive Rookie of the Year pick. I think it's our pick. It's the consensus pick. It's what's going to happen, and that's Chase Young.
Yeah, I think that there's no competition. Jeremy Chinn was having a really good year, but then the second half of the season, Chase Young he was dominant. And as you said, you turn on a Washington football team game, he is the best player on the field on most of the time. And especially in divisional games in the NFC East, he really just dominated. And so he's going to be the rookie. He's going to be the defensive rookie of the year, and he's our pick to be the defensive rookie of the year. So now, do you want to reveal our pick for the offensive rookie of the year and who we're predicting? Because this one is not the same. There is a disparity.
Yeah. So I think we'll start off with our pick, who we thought had the most impressive rookie season. I think it was really close between 2-3 players actually. But our pick is Justin Jefferson. So if you want to touch on why.
Yeah, I know that Justin Herbert had a fantastic year, and he really showed that he can be a franchise quarterback that with a lot of explosive plays downfield. But at the end of the day, I don't really tend to think that these awards should be quarterback awards. And as good as Justin Herbert was, Justin Jefferson with 1,400 yards set the receiving single season record by a rookie in the Super Bowl era. And for me, if you don't give it to him, that's just a testament to how much bias there is towards quarterbacks. And so that I'm not taking anything away from Herbert's year, but that was just a historic rookie campaign from Justin Jefferson. He showed the really good route running and speed and hands, and as we've mentioned, he was a way more well-rounded receiver than we gave him credit for when comparing him to other prospects in the first round, and that's what's really allowed him to have a great rookie year. And for us, he's the rookie of the year.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, it might be a little controversial, but definitely we think he was a little bit better and a little more impressive than Herbert, although Herbert was still extremely impressive. He impressed us. We did not think he would have the rookie season that he did. So again, taking nothing away from Justin Herbert, but Justin Jefferson, setting the rookie record for receiving yards and beating out players like Randy Moss, who had a historic rookie season back in 1998. It speaks volumes about the player that Jefferson is and the player that we can expect him to become. And if you want to hear anything else we want to have to say on Justin Jefferson, you can listen to our second part of our rookie review. And if you want to touch on now any other, honorable mentions for either offense or defense.
Well, first of all, I don't think we announced who our prediction is. Our prediction is Justin Herbert. I think it is still kind of a quarterback-centric award. And as you said, we think Jefferson had the better season than Herbert, but that Herbert in basically any other year would be our pick for rookie of the year. And he's just week in and week out. He showed a lot of explosive ability as a passer, and we think that he's going to be the rookie of the year. And as for runner-ups, I think we've already discussed Jeremy Chinn. I think he would be the runner-up for on the defensive side. And on the offensive side, I think Jonathan Taylor would be maybe like the number 3 in terms of rookie of the year voting if we were casting those votes, because he ended up like just with his end of the season stretch finishing 3rd in the league in rushing at 5.0 yards per carry. That's just, he's had an incredible rookie year. And James Robinson was maybe the most productive rookie back, and then at the end of the season, Jonathan Taylor overtook him, and both of them are honorable mentions for me, and especially Taylor.
Yeah, definitely. I think Taylor really came on in the second half of the season. I think, the beginning of the year, the Colts said they were going to ride the hot hand, and it was going to change every week, and it did. I think he had a few good games at the beginning of the season, and then after that second half of the season, he really turned it on, and he was the hot hand every single week for the Colts. Yeah,
so that wraps up our last segment of this rookie review. It's been really fun every 4 weeks tuning back in and reviewing these rookies in the NFL. And we've had a couple of people tell us that there are a lot of scouting accounts out there, but there's not really one that after the draft keeps following the rookie class as in-depth as we've been. So if anything else comes to your mind as you're listening to this podcast that you think would just be really cool for us to cover that maybe not other draft accounts do, then don't hesitate to let us know. Our DMs are always open, and we're willing to hear a supporter's opinion and everything. So just don't hesitate to reach out if anything ever comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think with all that said, obviously if there's anything any of you want to touch on for the 2020 draft class, we will. But I think, with this, the end of this episode, I think this pretty much officially wraps up our coverage of the 2020 rookies. And now we'll be moving on officially to the 2021 draft class. All the podcasts after this will be focused on that. So, it's an exciting time. So, yeah, with that said, thanks for listening. Let's move on to the 2021 draft class.